Hey, everybody.
Oh, hello.
So I'm Scott. I do security things at Netflix.
Hi, I'm Clint.
I'm Zill.
And Patrick.
We're going to talk to you all about something that we've been talking about building for a really long period of time, but we actually decided to build it today. And so I'm super excited to show you what we've been working on. We're going to do a little bit of a slide deck and then a demo. And I'm going to let Patrick walk us through what the fuck we built.
All right, yeah. Security interesting bits. WTF is this app? How is it risky? At scale as quickly as possible. This is pitched at senior security leaders. If you had 2 or 3 apps, this is not interesting to you. If you have to move quickly in a big old ecosystem, you cannot be intimately familiar with all of those apps, but you know that there's patterns. What those patterns are and what the deviations from those patterns are, that is interesting. What's normal, what's not, what are the scary things out there, which apps do you start with limited time, and can we do that in an hour? So, security bits. An MCP, Model Context Protocol aware LLM that can source tremendous amounts of information from an ecosystem, some giant microservices, CI/CD ecosystem, pull all of that in, summarize it in a standardized way, and then begin rendering judgments about those apps. What's here on the right is one of those actual outputs for a single app. Okay, that's cool. What if you have to deal with multiple apps? Iterate over that. It outputs structured, standardized information. It begins to infer what's common, what's interesting, what's deviance from that. And then you can start asking questions like, what apps are unusual there? What are the riskiest? What are the differences from this? So that's all well and good. We're going to do a demo.
We're going to go straight in. This is a live demo, so I don't know how this is going to work. You know, agents are weird. So first thing we're going to do is we have a few different MCPs. We have one that works with an inventory system where we're able to pull kind of like runtime information about an application. We also use that to download some code. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we've already downloaded the code. We're just going to analyze like the committers, the days since last commit. Let's be real. Y'all see days since last commit like 365. You know no one's maintaining that code. So that's like the first thing that we're looking at. Does it actually have a README? Does it use pull requests? Are the commits signed? Again, as a red teamer, I'm always thinking about the missing security pieces. Next piece, let's go ahead and actually analyze the frameworks that this code base uses. So the next piece we're looking at is it a UI? Nope, it's an API. It uses Spring Boot. Okay, that's great. What are the models, the views, and the controllers for that? Or is it using gRPC, and do I need to worry about DGSs and things like that? So again, I'm starting to build this story, make it bigger. All right, even bigger, boom. Sweet. Cool. Next thing we're gonna do is let's run another MCP. This one looks at AWS usage. What are you asking me to do? No. All right. So, boom. We know that it uses SQS. That's cool. It's a pub subsystem. Now I know that that might be an entry point into the particular application if they don't have that policy, IAM policy configured correctly. I can also tell that it's in multiple accounts. That's useful context. As you all know, how often is trust really mere prod? I don't know, kind of common. So that's interesting. Now let's actually perform some lightweight security analysis. And so let's take a look at the output here. This tells us what serialization is used, the database usage, any external calls, if it uses crypto libraries or things like that. And the final stage for this particular model context protocol server is to just kind of generate a nice human readable report for us. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to show you the big wow moment right at the end here. It's now taking all of that context that it's synthesized, and it's going to present that in a very human readable report that as an analyst, right, a security professional, I can look down really quickly and say, do I care about this thing? So let's take a look at the full analysis. We see that this application is Spring Boot. It contains both GraphQL and gRPC interfaces. It's not implemented as a microservice. It uses data models such as clips, collections, and packages. It has these controllers. It has no evidence of authentication and authorization, which is true. It includes external communications. It leverages Jackson and JSON. We can see the health of the code, and we can see risk factors, right? These that it calls out for us. So it's super helpful context. And then we get this nice summary at the end that we can put in our little report to send to our CISO. But let's do something real fancy here. Let's go ahead and look at all the applications that we analyze. As Patrick mentioned, we want to really run this across hundreds, thousands of applications. Well, I don't have hundreds or thousands here, but we do have a few. So let's see what it does. This is live. I have no idea what's going to happen here. So it is looking at all of the analysis of about 5 or 6 or 7 different applications. And let's see what it does. The robots are working. Okay, so it's saying, let me read and compare all the analysis reports we've generated. So it's going to go ahead and do that. This whole process takes about a minute. Hopefully that's okay. Because this is the big wow moment. And so what it's doing now is it's loading all those JSONs into the context prompt window. And since we've been having this session, it's now going to, let's see, it's trying to read each report. So we'll give it just another second here. And again, you can imagine many, many different applications here. So let's go ahead and proceed. And now is our analysis. And if this doesn't work, I have a backup screenshot. So we'll see what happens here. Gotta have the backup, y'all. All right. So let's see. Here we go. It's submitting the API request. And so I just want to walk folks through real quickly what we've done here. Go ahead.
Are these, when you're going through the request, the series of things at which it's grabbing, are these specific things you are looking for, or is this more agentic in nature where the AI is deciding which things to pull in order to get this information?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's actually a combination of both. So we have given it some guidance, like we specified specifically like the kind of interface we want it to fill. And when we need to be very specific, we've given it that guidance. Like we want to look for these specific things. I also said, can you check what modern web frameworks I might want to include in my analysis? And it went out and actually found those and figured out the right calling patterns for me. So now that we've completed our analysis, it tells us that Clips appears to be the riskiest application. It's because it uses multiple external services, AWS, cross-account AWS, GraphQL, JDBC, and multiple serialization methods. It's also missing a ton of security gaps. Some of the other tools that we looked at had strong authentication. They had good external calls and good crypto implementation. So as an analyst now, I can go and say, hey, you know, of the 5 or 6 new applications that launched this week, this is actually what I need to look at, and here's why. And we get all this information. Now, what we're thinking about doing in our V2 of this is just plugging in additional tools to make this enrichment more powerful. The runtime configuration, vulnerability scanning, the developers that work on this, their history of vulnerabilities, the Slack messages that they're in, and the conversations they're having. And I just want to let folks know that we built this start to end this morning. Wow, that's amazing. I think there's a few questions. Yeah, I'm ready for questions.
I want to make it a bit spicy. What if all this information is hallucination? How you validate all of this, or do you think about
Say that again.
some
What nation?
hallucination of model? So what if it's not
Hallucination.
true?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So I think the best way to know if a model's hallucinated is to then pick up the app and then take a look. You know, so the worst case scenario here is I get the output of this tool and it made a mistake on the crypto library, and I'm like, oh, that's not the one I should look
Let's
at.
say I'm security analyst, then I have doubled my job to validate output of this tool. Are you guys thinking about any validation to add?
Validation
Or
steps.
automation for validation on top of results?
Yeah, I think there could be a couple different mechanisms for validation. Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the things is, as much as possible, some of the underlying data sources here are very specific. Like the method used to say is spring present is not the LLM. It's other underlying ecosystem stuff. We feed that into the LLM. So as much as possible, some of the facts come from reliable sources. And this is about synthesis over stuff. That idea
What
of,
is reliable sources?
what's that? Other internal like internal dependency checking and stuff like that. So those are relatively reliable sources.
And I think there's maybe
Yeah.
a belief that we have the agents doing all the work here. There's about 2,000 lines of code, a ton of syntactics checking. We have test coverage and things to validate that. Like when it says it's using Django, that was actually validated in the code. So to be very clear, when you're asking about test of the things it's reporting, we've explicitly defined the interface and we've asked it to make sure it's validating that when it returns the
I
output.
think one of the ways how you can do it, it's actually checking if this API exists or not, right? Just pinging an API interface, grab some maybe data output and show like, okay, it's real, right? So basically it is exist. It's not just the model providing me an output or
Sure.
add some additional
Sure, and I would also
context
say
it's
that
been
that
trained on.
I'm cautious of over optimizing for model hallucinations when I think that's going to be a solved problem in 12 months. But I hear you.